Now, moving forward and going back to Timmy with the NBA, do you think Timmy was the only referee doing anything a little different?
Well, Timmy only picked winners. Let's go see that. I mean, Timmy only picked winners. Now, from the time that me and him hooked up, from December 12, 2006, when we met in the Marriott Hotel with Tommy, and we went on a roll from then. From that point till March 18th, till I stopped, before things were getting really hot, we bet 47 games, and he went 37-10 by the number. Now, whether what he told you or he, in his transcripts to the FBI and everyone he worked with, he said only bet 12 to 16 games. Well, it was bullshit. I have records of everything, on every game we bet, the numbers that I was moving. And I was also moving for sharp guys in basketball then, so it worked to my advantage that I knew if they were going to lay 4 in the game and he was on the right side, that game was going to go to 8 or 9, because here I had the sharpest movers in the country on it, and I had a guy that was actually refereeing the game. Do I feel when the games that me and Timmy bet, I watched every game he bet. I watched every game that he called. Everything is a matter of opinion. I mean, if you're betting the underdog, say you're taking 12.5 on a basketball game, and you're betting at that time I think it was the Charlotte Bobcats, and you're taking 12.5 on a game, and you're betting against the Spurs, and all of a sudden Tim Duncan's got 2 fouls on him within the first 3 minutes of the game, and you're on the dog plus 12.5. You're feeling pretty good at that point.
Yep.
So I'm not saying that. I think the way the government actually made what they justified his crime was, he did not actually fix games, but his intent for them were a little bit different. I forget the exact wording of what he admitted to his crime was, because they knew that there was no way that they could get away with, because if they really did their homework and went through it, they had a serious problem.
Right.
Now, you asked me, getting back to the main point, do I think there was other referees involved? Did I ever talk to any other referees? No, I did not. But I did bet 7 other games. And the other 7 games were horse shit. I went 1-7, and the only reason I won the 1 because they wanted to lay 3 on the game, and I brought it down to 1, and I laid some money line. So I had to conclude as a winner because the game won it did win by 3, and I won, and they pushed. But in their mind, the game went to 3.5 and 5 with everything. Right. At that point, I just thought there was other people he talked to on a daily basis, but I never had contact with anyone else but him, through Tommy, through the Marriott, and back at Tommy's house. It wasn't until after, Tommy and Timmy both were working with the federal government at this time. Tommy proffered 3 times. At the end, the government has to hand you over a thing called discovery. So at this point, Jack McMahon, my lawyer, contacts me and says, Jimmy, you better get down here now. And they start to bring me boxes and boxes of discovery. So then I'm looking at all these phone records. I'm like, what the fuck's this? So I get the phone records. And then when you're waiting to go to trial and you don't know where your life's going at this point, you start to take some time to read the discovery. So I took the discovery of the phone records of Timmy's cell phone, because they were going to be used against going to Tommy and back to me. And the one thing after I start saying, who are these numbers that I saw on the phone records? Well, the one number that stuck out the most was Scott Foster's. Now, Scott Foster had contact with Timmy 64 out of the 66 games from the 2006-2007 season.
When you were working with him?
When I was working with Timmy. Now, he talked to him before the game, at halftime, and after the game. I don't know what correlation that had. I don't know, maybe they had a secret love affair with each other. But anyone that talks to them pre-game, after game, and at halftime, something must have been going through their minds. Right. Not 64.
Do you think Scotty was betting his games too?
I honestly, I cannot say that because I never talked to him. But do I think he had something to do with it? Yes, I did. And I didn't come to that conclusion until when I received the phone records and I started doing my homework on it. Well, at this point, I found out that the federal government told me that Tommy was working. That at this point, that we were going to go to trial, the federal government said, oh, by the way, the guy that you're co-defendant, Tommy, was working with the government, and they released, and at this time I didn't know Tommy was working with the government. Whatever choice he makes, that's fine. So I found out that Tommy was working with the government as we were trying the case together, that Scott Foster's lawyer called Jack And
Jack
McMahon was my criminal attorney in Philadelphia. So at this point, Tommy, I just found out all of a sudden is working with the government. Timmy was already working with the government, and Scott Foster called Jack McMahon saying that, asked that I did not release the phone records for whatever reason, if he had anything. Now, I never spoke to Scott, but when someone's concerned about their well-being and their phone records, that he was talking to Timmy on a daily basis, blows smoke in my eyes, right. Like something's going awry right there.
Something's going on. Now, do you think, you definitely think the NBA didn't want this to go to trial?
Absolutely not. They did. There was no way they went to go to trial. When I got arrested on August 15th, 2007, then Jack went to Jeff Goldberg, who was the ADA at that time, said to him, listen, why don't we do this right now? This is in October. And he said to him, he goes, dropped extortion, the money laundering, these allegations I've been tied in with organized crime and everything else. Jimmy will take illegal gambling right now. I never denied the fact that I was a gambler and I was betting, but these other allegations that I was, fixing games and everything that did nothing. So at this point, and I just remembered Paul Harris and Jerry Conrad, the two FBI things, were standing out front of my house, and I was walking my dogs, and they said, we're letting you right now. You're going to jail for 20, 25 years when they get done with you. I'm telling you right now. And I just remember just looking at them like, I'll roll the dice and see what happens.
Right.
So we went through the whole gamut. And it wasn't until the end, a year and a half later, that when it came to, we went back and forth. I beat them on venue. When they found out they couldn't arrest me in New York, that they should arrest me in Phoenixville, because that's where I did my gambling, that we told them at that point, we're going to subpoena all 61 NBA referees. At this point, we knew they already did an investigation on all the NBA referees. At that point, I think there was 60 NBA referees working in the NBA. Well, when the information got out that 51 out of the 60 were betting on pro sports at that time, that I was going to subpoena them. I said, listen, let's go to trial. I said,
right.
if you want to, then we'll go. I'll go to trial with you, and I know Jack's going to go to war. At this point, Tommy is working with the government. He proffered 3 times against me, but to my side is that Tommy had a problem telling the truth. Him not telling the truth, the government at that time said there's no way they could put him and Timmy on the stand because Jack would destroy him. So David Stern,
they were liars.
They were liars, and if everything else got out that they were afraid of, that it would have been a mockery for the NBA.
Right.
So at this point,
so you had some leverage.
I got some leverage. So this way, I'll go a little bit longer. So Tommy he takes his plea, and he said, but I was afraid of at that point that I was going to get I was facing I didn't want to take I said I'll take illegal gambling, but I would not take fraud, because at this point, if I got convicted of fraud for illegal sports betting, then every TNT, DirecTV, every other affiliation would be saying to me that I was fixing games and that I'd be held accountable for.
They'd come after you.
They come after me. They could sue me for whatever. I said no to Jeff Goldberg at the time. Jack said, no, we'll go to trial with you. And at this point, the NBA got wind of this. Well, 12:30 at night, at this point I was so shell-shocked, tired, I put my phone off the hook, and next day I was coming up, we're going to fight you on venue, you're fucked, we're going to beat you, you're going to have to re-arrest me again, and let's go to trial. And Jack also said, at this point, and we're going to subpoena every NBA referee, and let's see what happens. Stern calls Goldberg and says they dropped everything and just took the illegal gambling. And that's what I wanted. I take illegal gambling, I do my bid for gambling, and the rest is history.
How long did you do?
I did. I got a 15-month sentence. I did just a year.
So basically, the NBA was scared.
They were shitless. They were
had all this information.
Right. Because if it went to trial and Timmy got on the stand, Tommy got on the stand, and then Jack would have put on all the other NBA referees, it would have been a
nightmare.
It would have been a nightmare for them. So
who knows what they would have said?
Who knows what they would have said? Because at this point they would have perjured them. They could have,
and you said 51 out of the 61.
51 out of the 60 NBA
were betting on sports,
right? And people are like, "Well, Jimmy, how do you have this information?" Well, I got boxes of Discovery, and there's another thing called the Freedom of Information Act. So when someone rats on you and says all this stuff, they had to tell you. They got to show you what they said, because you have every right to defend yourself. At this point, I'm like, I got all the free time in the world. I went to Valley Forge Park. I walked 5 miles a day, and I just went up. My work was to find out how am I going to vindicate myself for whatever these charges are based on, and it worked out.
Bottom line, Jimmy, Was Tim Donaghy fixing games?
The best way I can answer this is that the deal I had worked out with him was he was only getting paid on his winners. So I didn't pay him on his losers. So I said, Timmy, I gave him a free roll, was that you don't get paid. You get zilcho. You get zero money until the game covers. Now, the way we had it set up was mom or dad, away or home, -4. He knew what the game was. He always knew what the number was. So by in the back of his mind, when that game, he threw that ball up there and they tipped the game off, that if the Lakers were favored by 4 or the Celtics, that was our first game, where, when we took 2.5 on the game and they closed 3, they had to cover that game. If they didn't cover that game, he wasn't getting paid. Now, you can take that for whatever you want.
So 37
and 10 by the number.
Out of the 47 games he reffed.
Correct.
You guys won your wager.
Yes, we did.
That pretty much says it all.
Game in the game.
Jimmy, thanks for stopping by.
My pleasure, Steve.
Let's go grab a cheesesteak.
Sounds good to me.